Yay, and welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so grateful that you guys are here with me live and that we have the technology to be able to get together. I'm so accustomed for years to do bars sessions and things like that for You Are Not Alone. Ingrid knows we would run bars together, and she just had an awesome day running session after session of bars, which is really cool. But I'm currently in a space where I can't go out and touch people's heads at the moment or bring them into the house. My office space closed recently, so yeah, it was strange because it's like, okay, it's all about you are not alone. Everything here is about you are not alone, and yet here I am on the balcony in this isolated, kind of world. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing and on their own, and I wanted to be able to reach through space, to reach through everything and just say, both for myself, I'm definitely selfish here, and also for other people to recognize that they don't got to do anything on their own. They're never really alone. And so it started like this for September and for October, because the You Are Not Alone campaign encompasses 2 months. One is the Suicide Awareness Month, the month of September, and the other one is Mental Health Awareness Month, and that's the second one. And it was really interesting for me because a few years ago, I remember when it was called the Suicide Awareness Campaign by Access, I would reach out and invite people for sessions. And this was a really interesting learning point for me. People would say, I don't have a problem. I don't need that. I don't have a problem. I'm not going down that road of suicide. So this whole thing, a free bar session, you're not talking about me. This isn't for me. And it was really fascinating because I was just like in this scratching my head mode of, you don't have to have a problem to have a bar session. As a matter of fact, you probably have a shit ton more ease if you're willing to have a bar session as like a tune-up, as a joyful thing. You don't put on makeup to hide quote unquote ugly. You put on something to enhance yourself. And so this is like an enhancement. What are you choosing to add to your life, to expand your life, to enjoy more? And it was so odd to me because there was such a resistance to receiving. There was this, no, possibilities like that cannot be included in my world because I've already defined that I must have a problem, a difficulty, a something wrong with me in order to receive. And so then the following year, in 2020, I guess it was, I don't know if it was in 2020, maybe it was 2019, but I think it was 2020. The whole idea, it came up of the You Are Not Alone. And it was very funny because consciousness always, 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 always has our backs if we're willing to tap in. And I remember being on a meeting, I can't remember which of the various facilitator meetings it was, but it was before they announced the You Are Not Alone campaign originally. And I said to Emily, how people reject it. They use the excuse of the words, the meaning, the languaging in order to resist receiving, in order to resist having, in order to resist being. And so I said, what if we call it something different? What if you are not alone? And she paused and said, you're right on with it. That's exactly what we're calling it. And it wasn't like I was privy to some information. It's called consciousness. And consciousness has our back. And consciousness is always whispering. And consciousness is always inviting. And it isn't about any of us being geniuses. And yet we are geniuses, because when we're willing to listen to the whispers, we recognize that we don't have to carry the world on our shoulders. We don't have to carry ourselves on our shoulders. We don't have to feel like, anything has got to be a burden or heavy or deep. We just lower our barriers, and I'm going to invite you to do that now. Just lower your barriers, let go of any story, any point of view that you've held about yourself, any way that I'm going to put my hair up in a little clip, any way that you have defined yourself as being one way or another, and recognize that that is also you, but it's just a teeny tiny point of view. And years ago, when I would play on my consciousness fairy page on Facebook, I saw it as a, you know, because I'd made graphics about the point of view versus a, every time you take a point of view, it shrinks you into a point of view. The first one was a really strange looking crocodile thing, but then there was another one that I made with, you're either space and you're expanding things and exploding things, or you're compressing and contracting and shrinking and tightening and solidifying and intensifying in order to support a point of view. So since this is an access consciousness conversation, I have no idea. I tend to be really, sometimes I use the clearing statement, sometimes I don't. I love the clearing statement. And so if you want to find out more about it, theclearingstatement.com, accessconsciousness.com, you can get all the information. Sometimes I do it a little more like Stephen and Chutissa Bowman, where it's not constant clearings, but the clearing is beneath in the way that I be, the same way that I learned from them, where it's not being thrown out every 2 seconds. You kind of have the space of a choice. And the clearing is kind of the energy that I'm willing to be. I'd like to invite you to that. So I also like Dane. I felt so at ease with him when he said, I've got ADD, ADHD, OCD, and autism all rolled up into one. Well, turns out I have a brain like that squirrels into many, many different directions. So if I ever go off on a tangent and I don't come back to something, just unmute and go, hey, can we just get back to that thing? And I'd be glad to. Eventually it all gets sort of wrapped up, but just in case. I can't remember where I was before. I said the Access website. The clearing statement. I can't remember where I was. That's funny. Obviously, that one was done. Oh, about being right or being wrong or letting go of certain points of view. So when we have, I'm going to open up the chat in case anybody has any questions, you can pop them there or unmute as well. So whenever we're holding on to something so strictly, we don't see anything beyond it. One of the most beloved tools for me in Access is one that I often, this is my little cheat. Every morning when I get up after my shower, I do something as a little reminder for myself. And every day it looks entirely different. In this case, I've got IPOV, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. The mantra, E, J, and G together. The word choice, choose, and WEIP, what else is possible? Because we live in a world of possibilities, but when we hold on to a point of view about ourselves, when we hold on to a point of view about our life, when we hold on to anything that we're making as bigger and grander and more intense than us, yes, you can sit on this if you like. I've got 2 kitties keeping us company. You can sit down if you want. Then we're no longer honoring ourselves or nurturing ourselves and gifting us that space where we could go in any direction. It's like the space of neutral. It's a space of, yes, I have big space. Thank you. When we're in that space of neutral, there's no specific path to reach or to take. There's no, you have to do things in a very linear way. There's no step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. In this neutral space, if you're willing to lower your barriers and allow yourself to expand, you begin to notice little twinkles, little sparks, it may be visual, it may be just that your awareness goes to something. Everybody perceives it in a different way. But when you're allowing yourself to be space and to include everything and not eliminate anything, no, I'm not even speaking about resisting and reacting in this 10 seconds. It's more like just refusing. Simply by, for example, like those people that I was mentioning about the bar sessions where they said, no, I don't have a problem, therefore I don't need to get those sessions. It's not like they were fighting me. No, it doesn't have to be that kind of resistance where it's a fight or a struggle. It's this simple, this is cut out from any possibility for me. So when we're willing to lower barriers and expand, hi, Jessica. Hi, everybody, by the way. And Leslie, and Seema, and Lucia. And I can't read the Chinese characters, I'm sorry, but hi. So, and Julia, this is cool, and Ingrid, and Nina. And when we're being space, we can begin to have this softness, this spaciousness, this presence with us. And that presence, there's so many people that I hear in classes, and I've taken a lot of classes. I take things not from a FOMO. I don't know if you guys have heard that term. There are a lot of people who, oh my God, fear of missing out. If I don't take that course, what's going to happen? I don't function that way. And I invite you as well to look at where you're choosing from. Are you choosing to fix something, or are you choosing to honor and nurture you? There's a very different energy with everything that you're choosing. If you're willing to choose from what can I add that's going to create greater for me, is very different from, oh my God, I'm going to miss out if I don't do things the right way. If I don't do this, if I don't choose, oh my, what's it going to say about me? And I've been an access facilitator since 2011. I've been a bars facilitator since 2013, mostly. I've been a certified facilitator. There was a 5-month period where I was a nut. And I am so grateful that I was a nut. I was not bars, I was not CF, I was just Rachel. And I got to learn that just Rachel has an immense amount of value and is such a huge gift for myself, first and foremost, and then for anybody who chooses to interact with me as well. The titles, the being a CF or being a BF or being an AFF, a facelift facilitator, or a, there's so many, so many various, names and titles and letters and all of that. But those, again, are those points of views that just shrink down our universe. So I'd like you to look at what gift are you that you've not yet been willing to recognize? What gift are you that you haven't acknowledged yet? And if you are willing to be truly present, barriers down, with everything, what would you be able to notice? And what would you be able to see? And how much relaxation, how much expansion would you have in your world then? Last year in Access, they spoke a lot about contraction or compression, or it feels like last year. I don't know. It was before, before the SOP from September. They kept talking about you're being compressed, you're being with all the different points of view. You can feel it. Look at the world since March or February of 2020. How much compression solidity, intensity is there in the world? How much are all of us subscribing to either buying into that or resisting it and fighting it and demanding that that's wrong and it's terrible? No, it's okay. You're in Bali? Oh my God, Julia, that is awesome. I was wondering where that photo was taken. It's beautiful. No, relax, you're cool. I often do things with no video, especially when I'm in bed or naked going into the shower, which I do sometimes too. We do, I'm a maestro, and we do maestro swap sessions twice a day, every day. There's a group of us that gets together and we contribute energetically, and half of those I'm naked. So go figure. I don't know why, but my hands just started moving. So just relax, enjoy, receive, whatever this is. But the thing is, I'd like you to look at what you've been labeling yourself as, where it is that you've been functioning from. This whole thing of Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's so funny, they give it such a freaking huge mouthful. So a little about me. When I was in college, I think I was a sophomore in college, I was diagnosed as bipolar. I was medicated heavily. I took antidepressants for about 15 years probably. But during that time in college, I was actually going for weekly lithium injections. Everyone looked at trying to solve my problem, right? And fix me, rather than gave me tools to see where is my strength in everything that I had thought was so wrong with me. Apparently, I was aware. I thought I was depressed. Apparently, I could really tap into what's going on in other people's universes, not even just basic awareness, but practically living inside their heads. Well, when you're living in hundreds of people's heads at a time, your own head just almost feels like it's going to explode. You know, you have highs and lows that are so profound that you lose yourself in the process. And the traditional way of dealing with being bipolar or being diagnosed as depressed, and really I've taken such a mix of all sorts of medications for years, until I learned that I'm not depressed. I'm aware, and I was perceiving depression. And I'd like you guys to get the difference, really, really get the difference between perceiving something and being something. And I'd like you to look, because this is huge, and I could probably be with this for years and still just get the tip of the iceberg. We get it cognitively, we get it intellectually. We know this stuff. We know these tools. If you've been around Access Consciousness for any length of time, you know that 99% of all your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, physical sensations don't belong to you. If it's physical sensations, it's between like 50 and 100%. If I just recently read the Body Whispering book to my husband, he gets massages a couple of times a week, and every time he gets a massage, I'm, you know, in the room reading an Access book out loud to him, so he gets his Access dose, you can say, that way, as he's having a massage. And we just recently finished the Body Whispering book, and there's a whole section that is gorgeously explained by Dr. Dane here in the book about the expanse that's available when you recognize the ease that's available when you recognize that most things don't belong to you. And I'll give you an example. I was at a 7-day class in Costa Rica quite a few years ago. And I remember, Gary was facilitating. It was before Dane was facilitating 7-day classes. So there were chairs all over the place and massage tables all over the place. And then for those of us who snuck in, at the very last moment, I'm an expert in that. There was nowhere to properly sit. All the seats were already taken by the time I showed up. So I was like, well, where are we going to sit? And then they brought in these really cool, I've never seen them since, but they're really awesome. They must be something for camping, like a camping bed or whatever. But they brought in these camping things that tilt up. You've got like a backrest and then legs stretch out on this comfy mattress. It was awesome. And they had like 5 of them on one side of the stage and 5 on the other. So I didn't have to see Gary from further away. I was like right at at his feet. It was cozy and wonderful for me. Why am I telling you this? Because about 2 days into the class, I developed headache. I developed, my throat closed up. I had high fever. I could not move practically, but I wasn't going to not go to class. 7-day class? I mean, come on, it's a 7-day event. I was going to be there. And since the thing was like laying down anyway, and I didn't have to touch anybody else or whatever, I took the pillow. I could not go to breakfast, couldn't go to lunch, couldn't do any of those things. But I took the damn pillow, I carried it, and I walked in carrying the pillow. After the 2nd day of me doing this, where I'm just hugging the pillow from my hotel room, and I'm in there like this, Gary looks at me and goes, "Who does that belong to?" And I said, "Gary, I know this question. I've asked already. I've asked like 10 times already. I don't know. It's got, I'm not getting, it's not going anywhere. It's not changing, no awareness. And I've asked. So here I am, whiny." And he's looking at me like, "Stop whining." The next morning, and I hadn't eaten for like 2 or 3 days when I was there. I could barely drink, like the fresh juices that they make down. And the lady that made eggs there in the resort, Juanita at the time, it was really sweet. And she always wanted to speak to me in Spanish. And she was always smiling at me and always, like really friendly. And there were a couple of mornings where I would just come in for juice, with a pillow. And she's like, "Senora, don't you want your eggs?" Like, "No, Juanita, I'm sorry." And she was worried about me, right? But I don't take meds often, and it was just strange. I knew it wasn't mine because I asked, but nothing was changing or shifting. A couple of days into this, I get a text message on the WhatsApp chat for my daughter's school. Her best friend and a kid that she hung out with just a couple of days, actually the very same day my symptoms began, she hung out with my daughter and they had a play date for several hours. Mom wrote in the group chat, "I'm sorry, my daughter has scarlet fever, and I hope nobody's been infected, blah, blah, blah." I wasn't around. I was already in Costa Rica. I didn't know cognitively what was going on. My daughter had no symptoms. I had them all. Okay. Our bodies, our beings are capable beyond anything you can imagine. The moment I read that text, everything went away. Throat opened up, fever went away. I was able to walk around with no pillow. I went in for breakfast. Juanita looked at me, I'm no longer hugging my pillow boyfriend thing. And I could eat and I could talk and I could do everything. And it was phenomenal. From what? This little bit of awareness of, I looked at the chat. That's what was going on. All right, done. Yes, I asked the question. Yes, I used the tools. And somewhere I wasn't grasping, I wasn't acknowledging just how much my body, my being is aware of, and what capacities we have for healing other people. I wonder how often anything that's going in your life anything that's going on in your world and the way you're interacting or the way things are going on around you, what are you shifting and changing that you have not yet noticed or acknowledged? And the thing that's really, really fascinating to me is that until we acknowledge it, until we see it, until we honor ourselves and our capacity to heal someone else, with no point of view about fixing anything, with no point of view, I see that, Jessica, I'm walking around with this cold here and also asking who it belongs to. The thing is, I was doing it from there's something wrong and I have to fix this. I have to fight and resist this feeling sick or this feeling depressed or this feeling whatever. Have you heard the conversations over the last month or so, ever since the SOP in Access has all been about, are you in a 2D reality or a 3D reality? Well, I have a twist on that. So 2D, meaning flat, as Dane calls it. Are you a flatlander or are you a highlander? Highlander meaning not pertaining to this particular reality. Highlander, like on the show, I haven't watched it. I'd really like to see it. I just added it to my list on Netflix. The Highlander series, they're immortals unless they chop someone's head off. But what if it isn't necessarily about immortal like life or death the way we know it, but the thing is simply this reality is not ours the way we know something else would be possible. The moment we function from what else is possible, the moment we know that things are not just funny, black or white, then we begin to recognize that there is more available in the world that we may not have seen before. And we can only become aware of the possibilities when we let go of trying to fix. So as long as I was battering myself, really, judging myself, how could I be ill? How could I be, like this at a 7-day in Costa Rica? This should be like a dream come true for so many people. How am I wasting it? When I got over that and I got the awareness via the WhatsApp chat with the parents, my body was able to relax. How often in your life do you limit yourself into, I'm sick, the cold, for example, like with Jessica, or I'm depressed, like what I had lived for many, many, many years, or, here's a favorite one of my daughters, I'm shy. Really? You're shy? Yeah, that's why you'd like to, always show up in front of people and talk to people. And yeah, but she's shy. I mean, how many stories do we hold on to that aren't really who we are? I'm successful. I'm not successful. I'm detail oriented. I'm chaotic. I'm this, I'm that. Those are all points of view. They're stories. They're not really who you are. When you lower barriers and you expand into space, you are no longer a point. You become a space of everything is available to you. And certainly you can choose being shy, you can choose being depressed, you can choose anything and use it to your advantage. But you don't have to be the effect of anything. And when you recognize that, you could go, okay, I say that I'm this. Well, what if that's not true? Is that really true? Am I like the messiest person I know? Do I not know anybody who's messier than me, for example? And when you begin to look, really look, to question all of those assumptions that you've had about yourself and about how the world works, then you begin to notice a really magical world out there. I love something that when I was 15, my sister-in-law's mom was visiting us from Venezuela, um, and she said to me, she's American, but married a Venezuelan and lived there. And she said, you know, Rachel, you know what assume means? And no. And she said, it means to make an ass. And she wrote down the word and separated it into 3 parts. And this really imprinted on me. To assume is to make an ass out of you and me. Okay? So when you look at that, every single point of view, I'm going to look at the comments in just a second, but if I don't finish my thought and I'm coming out, every time we go to a story, to a fixed point of view, to a story about this is who I must be because this is what I've chosen before. Every time we go to any of those things, we are looking at fixed assumptions, making an ass out of ourselves, out of the situation, out of everything. And my invitation is, what if we no longer have to? What if, rather than looking at what Dane calls the 2D, the flat land, what is 2D? Right and wrong, good and bad, black and white, polarized reality. When you're looking at something that's spacious, that's spherical, a space of being in a space of possibilities, it's not something that's linear. You don't have a, it's on the spectrum thing, you know? There are so many, if you look at a color wave, there are so many colors and so many waves and heights and depths, and there's so much available. So all the algorithmic tonalities and anomalies of, and Jessica's wearing black and white too, and so Sonia and me. So all the algorithmic tonalities and anomalies of polarized reality that we have bought as real and true, and the thing that we have to fight, resist, or align and agree with in order to have the intensity of life versus the space of being. Can we destroy and uncreate all of those times a godzillion, please? Right, wrong, good, bad, all 9, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Haven't heard them, but have been talking about it for 5 years. Haven't heard them. I missed it.
That was the 2D and 3D.
2D and 3D. Yes. For 5. Yes, because everybody's thinking that things are just like this and that you have to fight things to be able to have your own world. And something that I love is that we don't have to spend so much of our energy on trying to fix the old, trying to repair the quote unquote damage. Most of what we're choosing comes from this, and most of where we're hard on ourselves is when we're not willing to be present now, but are living in trying to fix or trying to avoid or trying to deal with the past, whether it's related to other people or related to ourselves, in any of those points of view or assumptions that we've brought in about that past, rather than letting it go. And if I were choosing my reality, if I were choosing what I would love to have and be and explore and enjoy and celebrate, what would I choose? And that's where you begin to choose your life, not from the fear of missing out on something, not from fear at all, but from this celebration of possibilities, from this knowing that you can add more to that space, to that vibrancy, to that fluidity, to that movement, to the wave of possibilities that each of us truly can be. Let me peek here. What if I already acknowledge that my body has the capacity and still I know that it's not mine, and the intensity and the pain persists? That is a great question, Ina. The thing is, when we're so hyper aware, humanoids that we are, the volume, the intensity is information that's coming into us. It's awareness that our body is giving us. And until we are really willing to receive what's going on, the nuances of what's going on, like when I was sick, the way I explained is, I knew it wasn't mine cognitively. A lot of these tools from Access, or from anything else, there are so many paths to consciousness. Choose what works for you in any given moment. I knew it wasn't mine. I knew I was aware. And Access was the first opening for me in the world to recognize that I'm much more than all of this that's passing through me, right? So I recognize that, but I did not recognize, in my case, I did not recognize the extent to which I was healing. Okay. Apparently, I healed my daughter, at least. She didn't get anything, even though she spent several hours with her friend with the scarlet fever just in the afternoon before the scarlet fever broke out later on that night. Okay. I did not recognize my body's capacity for healing. I just knew that it was aware. So truth, Ina, are you a healer? Would you be willing to be, your body just would like to cry with relief right now. Do you have any clue what a huge gift that
is? Yes and no. Yes, I can get what a gift it is, but for at least for now, most of the time, I am suffering out of this gift. I mean, well, whatever that means.
Yeah, well, it's okay. It's okay. Look, your body is giving you the information about the capacity that it has. When you honor it, when you're grateful for it, when you don't judge it for suffering and for making you suffer, right? You create a dynamic of body against being. When you're saying it's making, this isn't such a gift, it's making me suffer. And I get where you're coming from. I totally get it. I see you. And when you look a step beyond where it's a problem and you're willing to be present with it, perhaps inject a little space and a little chaos into it by asking a question. Body, how much more capable are you? How many more talents and capacities and gifts do you have that I've never acknowledged before?
Way more.
And when you begin to be there and be with your body, have you ever taken a 3-day body class?
Yeah, a few times, yes.
Yeah, I love them. One of the first things they do is the high body exercise in class. You guys can do that too. You can put your hands on your body anywhere that you like and just say, hey, how are you? You know, how much vulnerability and allowance and gratitude and trust and presence do we have with ourselves and with our bodies? a lot,
not enough,
or not at all even. So everywhere we're choosing from frenemies versus this is my buddy. Yeah, we may be 50 pounds, quote unquote, overweight. Okay. My buddy has given me everything that I have chosen up to now. And it's fascinating to me. Anytime we would like something different, as Dr. Dane says, our point of view creates our reality. Okay? Interestingly, we look at ourselves as broken, or our body as creating suffering or intensity or difficulty. But we're not looking at how is this creating, how is this point of view, how is this thought, how is this experience creating the life and living that I have right now. Because when we realize that we really live in a very generous universe. If we have a point of view, and I took a conscious horse, conscious rider class, and I remember telling Susie, I'm gonna fall off the horse. Susie Godsey, who runs the conscious horse, conscious rider program. Well, she said, if you have a point of view that you're gonna fall off the horse, guess what? You're gonna fall off the horse. And that's the way it works. If we have a point of view that we are broken, that we are suffering, that anything else is going on, that point of view, the system, so to speak, is giving us exactly the experience. We put it in this point of view, we receive the experience based on that point of view. If our point of view was, wow, body, what are you capable of? That I've never even thanked you for. What do you know? What are you gifting out in the world? What are you contributing out in the world that I've not yet acknowledged? And begin with that. A few years ago, when I used to co-host a radio show, it was called A to Zen at the time. Now it's I forgot what the network is called, but with Yurira Guzman, my friend, we co-facilitated a radio show for 6 months, 9 months, something like that. There was one episode we did, and I'll attach it in the replay of the replay email. It was about being naked. And I was fascinated because I so saw my body as an enemy, as something to be filled with shame about because of overweight or anything else, that I wasn't kind to my body in any way, shape, or form. And I sat during that radio show in front of a full-length mirror in the walk-in closet because the gardener was outside and our windows are all like open glass windows to where the garden is. So I couldn't be out there because Gardner would either stand by the window the entire time of the broadcast or have a heart attack. So I was in the walk-in closet and had the computer and the headphones on and the mirror right in front of me. And that was fucking uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable to sit there for an hour facilitating, talking, being present while staring at something that I had avoided looking at for many, many years, because that was public enemy number one kind of thing, in my world. And here I am having to be in front of the mirror naked. And at first it was horrifying. It's just an assumption, though. It's just a point of view. And then I began to look at different parts, and it was very curious. It was almost funny. And sorry, you guys, I get to be a little like, it was like two eyes and a nose and a smiling mouth. I began to have so much fun with myself and with my body. I was laughing. I don't even remember if it was during the broadcast or when I muted during the ads. There's a couple of ads through it that they have us do. It was just very interesting. And then I began a little phase of drawing naked women. I would just draw naked women bodies, not generally, you know, more shapely, I guess, but of different sizes, of different colors, of different, just like, whoa, you know, this is a really interesting friend to begin playing with and getting to know. And while I don't listen 100% of the time to my body, I have been far more gentle with myself and gentle with my body, and asked my body to be gentle with me also, because sometimes I'm aware and I'll like eat or consume what my body would like, and I'll ask body, would you like coffee? And my friend from Montreal is, you know, still a large cup of coffee, but relatively slim compared to some of the bathtub size coffee cups that I have. And right now, this is all the coffee I'd like. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure I'd like this entire thing. But there'd be many times when I would ask for the first sip, would you like coffee? Yes. Body says, yes, I'd like coffee. And I'd get a big bathtub mug and drink the whole bloody thing twice. My body said I wanted coffee, you know, but am I really present? Or am I functioning from assuming and then making an ass out of you and me? How often do we function from assumptions about who we are, about what we are, about who our body is, what our body desires, rather than getting present? For me, the gift of being present is like a walking, talking meditation. It is the ability to not have to change anything, and yet being able to be in this neutral space where you can shift directions, where you can change things, where you can create things in an entirely, in an entirely different way. Are you gonna keep moving, or am I gonna move you? And that's a really cool example too. Thank you, kitty cat. Everything moves and changes. If I were trying to be a perfectionist, that would freak me out. How dare you interrupt my broadcast? If the dog barks, which she does often, anytime big birds come flying past the ravine, you know, I used to get mad. Or when helicopters would come by, I used to get frustrated when I would do Zooms on the balcony and then rant and rave about, I ain't never a quiet time, blah, blah, blah. Fuck it. Literally, one of the best tools ever. Fuck it. It is what it is. We keep choosing. What if we do more of that in life and living? It is what it is. We just keep moving. Everything moves and shifts. See, our points of view create our reality as long as we're making those points of view solid and real and intense and holding on to them. But what if we allow those points of view to just be, as this reminds me, interesting point of view? It doesn't mean I don't have a point of view. It's just that it's just an interesting point of view. I could have it. I could not have it. I could look at it from a different perspective. I could flip it on its head. How many points of view about you could you take and turn 180 degrees? What if you flipped everything that you thought was true about you on its head? What would that create? Same with your body. What if you'd be willing to look at your body not as an enemy, but as a friend? What if you'd be willing to see that the universe and everything around us is actually friendly? That was one of Einstein's questions. You know, are we living in a miraculous reality or not? It's up to us. If we see it as miraculous, those miracles begin to unfold. We open a space where those miracles can come to be. We open a space where our choosing, our asking, our playing invites more of those miracles. And it's a very different energy than I'm here alone, I'm defined like this, I'm in this 2D flatland, I am just this, and nothing is here to contribute to me. Simply letting go of that assumption can already begin to change and shift a lot. So if something looks like it's suffering, what gift is there that you hadn't noticed before? And what if, rather than judging yourself for not noticing it, or for not hearing the whispers, or for resisting receiving the information because it may be fucking uncomfortable, what if instead of that you just go, whoa, there is so much more to me than I have ever realized. There is so much more available than anything I've ever known. And what else is possible then? Let me see. Ingrid, I've been getting these rashes in my legs and asking questions. They go away and then they show up a few weeks later. And yes, I was acknowledging yesterday when it started again that I've been resisting and reacting to it a lot. I'm getting that it's the earth. Cool awareness, wondering what I'm choosing that keeps it showing up. Okay, first of all, can you stick out your hand and I smack you? No, I'm joking. What do you mean? You see, notice, I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm gonna stop you because you just went to the wrongness of you, and that is not allowed. What am I choosing that keeps it showing up? Please don't go to the wrongness of you. Okay. Yes, it is our choice that creates, but not from I'm choosing it. It's okay, I chose something, but not what am I choosing that's having this keep showing up. Do you get the difference in the energy? There's curiosity and there's blame. Everywhere you're going into blaming yourself and your body for awareness and for information, would you please stop that? Please. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys and beyonds. So like I was saying with Ina, we can. So some people do drugs, alcohol, shopping, sex, multiple times a day with multiple different people, whatever, not as a joy, not as an adding something to their life, but as a, I've got to step out of my life and living. I've got to shut the world out. So I'm not going to be present. I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm not willing to perceive. I've got to turn down the volume on it all. And sometimes we're so freaking aware that that volume button is, oh boy, is it up there big time, right? The thing is, awareness is a gift. It's a superpower that you have. Refusing awareness in any way, shape, or form hurts. It can hurt physically, it can hurt by contracting your life, it can hurt in multiple different ways, but it's kind of pointless to refuse awareness. So part of the awareness comes when you're not in judgment of you. When you're in wonder and curiosity, truly just, here we go again. I wonder what this is a very different energy to what am I choosing that keeps this showing up? There's something wrong with me. I've got to, whip myself and give me that cat o' nine tails or whatever it is. I'm going to use that one too. And let me just flagellate both arms. I'm going to keep it going, like this. And, until I get all the stripes and the blood and the gore and the whatever, then it's can't be over like that. But really? What if we look beyond? And when we're willing to just suspend that point of view, just to let that point of view go and just wonder, oh, I love the name Wonder Woman. She doesn't necessarily wonder. She's looking for the right answer and for the truth and all that. Yeah, but I love the name. I mean, Gal Gadot's pretty cool. The movie's awesome. But beyond that, I wonder, what is this? I wonder, what can I do with it? What's it gifting? What if not only is there nothing wrong with me, but there's nothing wrong with this? What's going on here? See, we don't tend to like do much when it comes to like vaccinations and following the herd and all of that in our family. And yet my husband chose to get at least the first shot of the vaccine, and he's got leukemia. So that's part of why I haven't been like physically around very many people. Plus I have my parents in the house this past 3 months, 2 months, something like that. So it's, you know, we've kind of mostly kept to ourselves. And it was really interesting. I got the awareness that there was something up with his body, but he didn't tell me he got the injection. And so it was really fascinating how much information I was receiving from his body, pain, suffering, everything else. And Ina, you wouldn't have any of that around you in Israel, where 80+% of the people are already vaccinated. So there's a lot of information that the bodies scream to us. And yes, that the earth screams to us. Usually when we use the tool, who does this belong to? We ask, is it mine? Is it somebody else's? Or is it something else's? And something else is our beautiful, gorgeous, glorious planet. I want you to recognize something. The planet will ask, and your body will ask. And if you do not listen, if you do not get the message that your body is sending, or that the earth is sending, the volume will go up. Your awareness is there. The volume, the intensity, the thing you call pain will turn up until you listen. The earth cannot speak to you in words. The plants cannot speak to you in words. The animals cannot speak to you in words. That's a right or wrong 2D reality. Our limitation of what we're willing to receive cognitively. Step beyond your mind. Go beyond thinking. Get out of your head and get into your awareness. What can you perceive then? And if it didn't have to hurt, if it didn't have to be loud, how else could it show up? And what message is it gifting you? And if it's the earth, the best thing to do, and we can do it right now, and I love doing this, we do it when we have a view of the ravine of, you know, quite a distance. Whenever we see fires anywhere or anything else anywhere, we do contributions. Now, there are multiple ways to do contributions. I'll speak of another one in a sec, but in this case, it's a 1, 2, 3. So what we do is we gather energy in our hands, and you're welcome to do it with me. Tap into anything that's particularly intense, anything that's causing intensity, whether physical, emotional, or anything else. And on 3, you can contribute it, because that very thing that seems like intensity and pain and suffering for you, for the earth, is like fertilizer. So on 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Now, a lot of people do fracking. When Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, got shingles a couple of years back, they discovered that pain, whether pain of stupidity, pain of frustration, pain of all sorts, could be used to change things. And because it's such a huge intensity, how much energy is there in maintaining something as painful and intense? Whether it is physical or emotional, how much do you have to hold on to it, to sustain it, to compress it, to keep it, to separate it, to solidify it, to keep it somewhere else, when it's painful, it gets louder and louder and louder. And all of that energy that you used to try to contain it, you can use like an atom bomb explosion. And we call that the frack. And it works very similarly, and I'll give you my other take on it, but it works very similarly to the 1, 2, 3 that we did. And it's basically 1, 2, and on 3, we frack. So 1, 2, frack, when you tap into that pain, that intensity in your life, whatever it is. 1, 2, frack. 1, 2, frack. 1, 2, frack. Whichever way you're willing to do it, and you can do it many times. You can do it 100 times. You can do it 10 times. You can do whatever works for you. You can dance through the world fracking. My favorite is the number 10. The 10 is a really interesting number. There's a number of miracles, as far as I'm concerned, because it wakes up the stupids. Stupid, not from a, they may be super intelligent, but they're not aware and awakened. And so when someone is choosing from anti-consciousness and unconsciousness, that's what we're referring to as stupid. So 10s, doing the number 10, wakes up the stupids to start. Beyond that, and this is what I love about it, anything that seems solid, dense, fixed, suddenly changes from the quantum particulates, from the form and the structure and the significance, it opens up magically into spaciousness, into acoustic waves of possibilities, into the light waves. Everything we are is like light and information and awareness, right? The lightness of being is something that can change anything and everything. And so I love the 10s. For me, they melt. And that meltiness, taking things from a solid form to the formlessness of possibilities, is bringing that neutral space into being. So let's do some 10s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Ah, yummy. Now, of course, there's lots of numbers. There's lots of things that we do in Access in the foundation class. You go up to like the number 20 and it explains all sorts of stuff. And pretty soon there'll be other numbers coming up because Dane was already tapping into 21, 22, 23, 24. Undefined as of yet. But the thing is space. It opens up space. So when you're willing to let go of the point of view of wrongness, there is a gift of a space of something that's available. And whether you realize it or not, that space is you. And you're being you. And you're being vulnerable. And you're being open. That changes absolutely everything around you, simply by your willingness to interact with it, simply by your willingness to see it freshly. So we have 3 cats. I'm using a lot of personal examples because when we talk intellectually, we could speak about tools intellectually, and that's cool. That's wonderful. And they stay outside kind of intellectually in many ways. But when we begin to apply things, to experience things, to see things in the way that they're applied, it's, things land in our universe in a different way. And really one of the hugest gifts that we be on the planet is that space of wondering, that space of just when you're being you. And I'm a being you certified facilitator because I freaking love the tools. And to me, access is being you. It was very funny. I said to Dane before the being you certified facilitator training, like, this is not a quote unquote specialty class. We have all sorts of specialties in access and they're really amazing. And I said, this isn't specialty, it is the underlying energy beneath every single class in access. Access is about being you. And if we're not being us, we're not using the access tools, is until we're getting the greatness of us. And like I told you, I've been a bars facilitator since 2011 and a certified facilitator since 2013. And only like last year did I get the gift of being me. Ding dong. It could be very intellectual and very outside until it lands in your world and you begin to embrace it and perceive it and receive it in an entirely different way. I'm immensely grateful for these tools because honestly, I have no idea how I would have survived the last year and a half, how I would have flourished in the last year and a half, or however long it's been since, the world shut down and we made it to Guatemala on like the last flight before they shut down the airport's next to last flight, actually. The tools are one thing and they're phenomenal. And I invite you to look for the gift of you and the beautiful energy of you beneath the tools. As you're using the tools, I don't know how to put it into words, but it's something, it's very palpable. It's that when you have that space of you and honoring you and being you, while you're using the tools, you're not trying to get the tools right. One of the things that most frustrates me is, I just look at it curiously now, is how many people are attempting to fix a wrongness. If you could see yourself through the eyes of the planet, the world, and if you have any friends who have no judgment, if you don't, text me. I'll look at you with the eyes of no judgment, or call me or whatever. Sometimes calling, for sleep or whatever, maybe not if we're in different time zones. But the thing is, when you're willing to look and see with the eyes of no judgment, the thing that looked like such a wrongness changes. And I brought up my cats. I have one that's elderly in every sense of the word, which is, it's really funny to watch her on the one hand and then see my mother and her choices currently physically. My father is 5 years older than my mom, and he's like chipper and going. My mom's like downhill, like as much as she can. And the cat's very much like that. You have to spoon feed the cat. The cat has some habits that are, a little more challenging to be around, where she chooses to go to the bathroom, or, all sorts of interesting things. And so we've got Canella, who's the cat that most enjoys hanging out with me. Like wherever I go, she goes, she's hanging out. She often climbs on me. She is my 6 a.m. wake up call, with massages, etc. Not even calling me to come up and feed because they have food up anyway, just from, hey, I'm contributing and here you go. The other one, Kippy, is different. She's more of a challenge. And I noticed that I have points of view and preferences as to who I prefer to be with and what I prefer, you know, that when I see Canella, I see that yumminess, the massage, the softness, the sweetness, the kindness, the lovingness. And when I see Kippy, I see that too, because she's very, very loving, very, very sweet. And she's always been a little more isolated, but I see that and I see all the stuff that's going on. So am I really seeing the cat or my mom, or am I seeing my frustrations at what's going on? And that's something that I'd like to have you guys notice as well in your world. Are you really looking at what is, or are you looking through the filters of those points of view that you have about how it should be and it isn't? So this morning when I was getting the Zoom set up, I was looking at that language feature that Ingrid was mentioning to me. I was doing some research and Kippy was sitting on my lap, and I noticed that I was just like, I had this energy of dismissal rather than being so grateful that she's on my lap as I'm on the computer. And it was really interesting because rather than judging myself, I stopped and I looked and I went, oh, I'm not really seeing her for her. I'm seeing the points of view that I have about the frustration of what I just had to clean up or what I have to do for her to feed her, etc. But am I really seeing her? So what would it be like if you would be willing to take off those points of view, to lower those barriers, if you'd like to call them that? All those points of views are just simply barriers, keeping you away from you. What would you be able to see and perceive and enjoy in the world when you let go of the way you think it is and begin to receive the gift of what it truly is? And when you see that, and when you be that, you can begin to see the sparkles, the phenomenons, the magic, the tiny things that other people wouldn't ever notice, but you do, because you're looking freshly, you're being present, and your view is not clouded by any filters of any point of view. So I hope this was a contribution. If anybody has any questions, I am here. You can unmute. I really enjoyed this. Thank you. And I hope this contributed to you guys as well. It's like a party. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so
Thank
glad.
you, Rachel.
You're welcome. You're welcome. The thing is that just give the, like I was just thinking about your body again and the messages. Would you be able to ask your body what she'd like? Maybe she'd like to dance as she's contributing to the earth. Maybe she'd like to listen to, I see Jessica with a guitar. Jessica's a singer and a songwriter. So maybe she'd like to move. Maybe she'd like to sing out your contribution to the earth. No one says there's only one path or one way. When you embody the tool, it can shift and change. It's funny, I can cook and do a symphony session as I'm cooking without thinking about it, just dancing through the kitchen. You know, when I'm walking on the grass, I'm contributing to the planet with every step that I take. And this is a huge one too. when you lower barriers and you let go of those points of view of separation, your willingness to receive exponentializes. Your willingness to receive becomes even more amazing. And the grass tickling your toes as you're stepping into the, into the garden or anything else, when you no longer see yourself as separate, as less than or more than, but just simply together with, things change. And I know this isn't full-on access lingo, because I go for the energy beneath the tools. And I wonder what it would be like if all of us would embrace the miracles that we be and the magic that we invite into the world by our willingness to see something beyond. Invites everything to interact with us in a different way. The earth is truly just waiting for us to begin receiving. And when we no longer keep it out, when we no longer refuse and resist, not by, oh, I'm going to fight it, but even by saying, that can't even be a possibility. When we reject, it can't come in to contribute, but it's there just waiting for us to lower those defenses, to lower those barriers, to expand and to include. So what else is possible when we go about our day in that kind of present space? Thank you, guys. I also wanted to say I'll be hosting my friend, Dr. Helen Gitlovich, on Monday evening. She's doing a Zoom, I think it's $20, about living a stressless life. There's been a lot going on. It might be fun. I'll include a link for that in the replay in case you guys would like to join us. It'll be our Monday evening here, so there'll be replays and all of that good stuff too. And Helen and I, well, we like to play together. In the email that I sent for a reminder for this, there was we have a Facebook group together, Being You Without Hiding, and we just did Out of Controls again. We're not doing them daily like we did for 100 days, but we're doing them a few times a week, because when we're willing to let go of all of those things that we thought were so solid and so real and so significant and so formed and so structured and so meaningful, then there's so much more available. And in that email I put in a replay. Also, there's the Out of Control playlist on my YouTube channel. You're welcome to find it over there too. And there was something else. Oh, Wednesdays, still in October, Wednesdays, I'm doing the symphony group tasters every Wednesday. And in the replay for this, I'll add the link to the folder where you'll find the recording for this and for the previous symphony group tasters. And I'll put in the Zoom link for the next one so you can be on with us live. It's spacey and it's yummy, and I hope you enjoy it. So thank you very, very much. And you're never, ever, ever alone, and you are never, ever, ever your past, and you are always able to choose and to create and to play and to explore beyond your wildest dreams. And thank you, Ina. Shabbat Shalom to you too. And what gifts could we receive and bestow today? What contribution could we be walking? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, guys.